If you're moving to Los Angeles, this one decision could cost you over $50,000, or it could make you hundreds of thousands. And I've seen buyers get this completely wrong. So the question is, should you rent first or buy right away? And the answer is not what most people think. Hi, I'm Kina, and I help relocation buyers move to Los Angeles every single week. And today I'm breaking down exactly when renting makes sense and when buying right away is actually the smarter move. Let's get into it. Most people moving to Los Angeles think renting first is the safe option. But in this market, it can actually be the most expensive mistake that you make. I've seen people spend over $60,000 their first year just on rent, only to realize they could have bought and built equity right away. And while that's all happening, rents and home prices just keep going up in LA. But on the flip side, I've also seen buyers rush into a purchase, pick the wrong neighborhood, and later realize that lifestyle just doesn't fit them at all. So I get it. This isn't a simple decision. No matter how much advice you hear online or anywhere else, you can get this very right or very wrong. So let's start with when renting first actually makes the most sense. Number one, you don't know the neighborhoods. If you don't fully understand the neighborhoods yet, you shouldn't rush into buying, because the Westside alone feels like 5 completely different neighborhoods. Santa Monica feels polished, walkable, and beachy. Venice is more creative, a little chaotic, and very trendy. Culver City is central with great restaurants and many studios. Playa Vista is newer, it's very clean, and very community focused. And Marina del Rey is quieter with a lot of waterfront views, and it's very laid back. And I've had clients come to me thinking they already knew where they wanted to live and completely changed their mind after actually spending time here. Because once you experience these neighborhoods in real life, you realize they're not just different locations, they're completely different lifestyles. And renting gives you that clarity without pressure. If you don't know where you'll be working yet, this one is huge. Because in LA, your commute can completely change your quality of life. What looks close on a map can easily turn into a 45-minute drive. I've actually experienced this myself recently. I had an event on Saturday, I checked Waze, and it only said 15 minutes away. I thought, that's perfect, super close. But by the time I left, that 15-minute drive turned into a 40-minute drive. And that's on a Saturday. Now imagine doing that commute every single day. Not fun. A lot of buyers think that they're comfortable with LA pricing until they actually live here. Because it's not just your mortgage or rent, it's everything. Groceries are higher, dining out adds up fast. Parking, gas, going out on the weekend, it all compounds. I've had clients move here thinking their budget feels completely fine. And within a few months, they realized their lifestyle felt tighter than they expected. So renting first gives you a chance to actually experience the day-to-day spending here before locking yourself into a long-term payment. Because what looks comfortable on paper doesn't always feel comfortable in real life. If you're relocating on short notice, this is where I usually tell clients to slow down. Because buying a home in LA isn't something you really want to rush. There are inspections, negotiations, timelines, and a lot of other decisions that need to be made carefully. I've seen buyers trying to rush into a purchase because they felt pressure to figure it out quickly. And that's usually when mistakes happen the most. Renting gives you a landing pad. It gives you time to think clearly without feeling like you have to make a 6 or 7-figure decision overnight. If you have major life changes coming up, this is another big one. New job, relationships, growing your family. I've had clients move here thinking that they were in one phase of life. And within just a year, everything shifted. Maybe they needed more space. Maybe their commute changed. Maybe their priorities just look different. Renting gives you that flexibility to adjust and adapt to everyday life changes without being locked into something that doesn't fit your life. And honestly, sometimes you just need to live in LA before making that big decision. When you visit, you're going to the best restaurants. You're near the beach. Everything feels so exciting and new. But when you actually live here, you're dealing with traffic, figuring out your routines, and just understanding what your day-to-day life looks like. And renting gives you a chance to figure all that out first before committing to a specific neighborhood long term. So if any of that sounds like you, renting first isn't a step back, it's actually a strategy. But here's where most people get it wrong. There are situations when renting first actually puts you at a disadvantage. If you already know where you want to live in LA, this is where buying right away makes a lot more sense. Maybe you visit LA often. Maybe you have a lot of friends or family over here. Or maybe you've even lived here before. You already understand the lifestyle you want, whether that's walkability, beach access, or something more quiet and residential. I actually had a buyer who walked into one of my open houses. He just moved to LA from London. He came with a friend who actually lives in LA, and he was very clear he wanted Venice. He already understood the vibe, the lifestyle, the trade-offs, and everything in between. So for him, there wasn't really a reason to test it out by renting first. And that's the key if you already have that level of clarity. Waiting doesn't really give you an advantage. In fact, in a lot of cases, waiting just delays you from getting into the market. The second scenario where buying actually makes sense is job stability. Whether you're remote, hybrid, physically going into the office, if you know exactly how your work is going to look on a day-to-day basis, that just removes the biggest uncertainty of buying. Because I've had buyers move here thinking that they'd be fully remote. And then a few months later, their company asks them to come back into the office. And suddenly, the home that they purchased doesn't really make sense anymore. Now their commute is longer, their routine has changed, and their lifestyle feels completely different than what they had initially planned for. But if your job is stable and you know exactly where you need to be, you can choose a location that actually supports your day-to-day life. And that's when buying becomes a much more strategic decision, not a guess. The next scenario, and this one's a big one, when you're financially ready. If your income is stable, whether you're self-employed, salaried, or you have some passive income coming in, you've saved for your down payment, and you actually understand what it costs to buy in LA. Because I've had buyers come to me thinking that they were ready. But once we looked at real numbers, taxes, insurance, HOA, monthly payments, it all felt very different than what they initially expected. But when you've already done all that work, and the numbers make sense for your lifestyle, that's when you're in a strong position to buy without stretching yourself. Because buying should feel like a smart move, not a stressful one. The next reason, predictability. It can go up fast. I've seen people move here with comfortable rent, and a year later it jumps. And suddenly they're spending way more of their income than they planned. And that's when it really starts affecting everything. Your ability to save, your lifestyle, even how long you can actually stay in that particular area. But when you buy, you have a lot more control over your monthly costs. And for a lot of buyers, that stability is worth everything. And this is a big one, building long-term wealth. I've had clients rent for years thinking they were waiting for the right time to buy. But by the time they were ready, prices had gone up so much. They just skyrocketed. They were priced out of the area that they originally wanted. So waiting didn't save them money, it actually cost them more in the end. And I hear this all the time. People just waiting for interest rates to drop back to what they were a couple years ago. But the reality is no one knows if or when that's ever gonna happen. But what you can control is buying when you are financially ready. Because you can always refinance later when and if interest rates come down. But you can't just go back in time and buy yesterday's pricing. So if building equity is your goal, the sooner you can comfortably get into the market, the better. And honestly, this one is so underrated. Moving twice in LA is not fun. Trust me, it's time. It's money, and time equals money. It's packing, unpacking, coordinating everything all over again. And it adds up so fast. I've had clients tell me, I just want to get it right the first time. And if that's you and you already have clarity on your budget, your location, your lifestyle, then buying right away can actually make your life a lot easier. One move and you're settled. Now let's look at what this really costs, because this is where the decision becomes pretty real. Starting with renting. Let's make this real because people get pretty surprised. A 2-bedroom on the west side, Playa Vista, Culver City, Santa Monica, you're looking at about $4,200 to $6,000 a month just in rent. And over 12 months, that's $50,000 to $70,000 gone. No equity, no return, nothing. And you don't get that money back. And that's not even including moving twice, deposits, furniture. It all adds up quickly. Now compare that to buying. Condos and townhomes are roughly between $1.5 million to $1.9 million. Single family homes are between $1.8 million to $3 million and up. Yes, it's more upfront, but with buying, you're building equity, you're locking in your costs, and you're starting long-term appreciation immediately. Your money is actually working for you in this situation. So the question isn't what's better. It's what situation are you in right now? Because both can be the right decisions, just at different stages. So here's how to decide within 30 seconds. If you say yes to most of these things, then rent first. You don't know the neighborhoods. You want flexibility. You're unsure about your work location. You're moving quickly. Or you just feel overwhelmed. Now, on the flip side, if you say yes to any of these, you should strongly consider buying. You know where you want to live, you're financially ready, you want to build equity, your income is stable, and you plan to stay at least 3 years. So it all really just comes down to clarity. And once you have that clarity, the decision becomes a lot easier. If you're moving to Los Angeles and you're not 100% sure whether you should rent first or buy, you shouldn't really be guessing on this decision, because this isn't just about finding a place to live. It's about making sure your first move here actually fits your lifestyle and your long-term goals. I help relocation buyers every single week map this out based on their budget, their lifestyle, and how long they plan to stay in LA, so they don't end up making an expensive mistake when they first get here. If you want help with your move, click on the link below to schedule your free relocation strategy call with me and download your free relocation guide. We'll go over your budget, your situation, your timeline, and everything else that you need in order to make the right decision. I'll help you figure out what makes the most sense for your situation before moving here. I'm Kina, and I'll see you in the next video.